In the lush heart of Everdell National Park, a powerful elephant named Augustus faced the fight of his life, drowning in a hidden, treacherous lagoon. Caleb Sullivan, a dedicated ranger burdened by a painful family past, risks everything to save him. But what Caleb doesn't know is that this rescue will not only revive the majestic creature, it's also his final chance to heal wounds with a father who never understood him. One act of courage, one chance at redemption. Will saving Augustus finally save Caleb's heart? The sweltering heat of late afternoon draped Everdell National Park in a heavy golden haze, softening the outlines of trees and casting elongated shadows over the grasslands. Florida's summer was relentless, humidity thick enough to feel like a tangible force pressing against the skin. Cicadas buzzed languidly, their rhythmic hum blending harmoniously with the distant murmur of gently flowing water. The sprawling savanna within the park shimmered under a sun slowly beginning its descent, bathing the landscape in shades of amber and bronze. Across the rolling grassland marched Augustus, an African elephant of profound majesty. At nearly 55, his age was revealed by the depth of wrinkles etched into his leathery gray skin, the quiet dignity in his deep, thoughtful amber eyes, and the impressive sweep of his gracefully curved ivory tusks, polished smooth by years of gentle friction against trees and earth. Augustus had long been revered as the wise and patient patriarch of Everdell's elephant herd, guiding his family with steadfast authority tempered by compassion. Despite his imposing stature and formidable strength, Augustus was renowned among the park rangers and visitors alike for his gentle disposition and extraordinary intelligence. Accompanying Augustus closely was Clementine, a spirited young female elephant, slender yet sturdy, her smooth gray hide tinged faintly with a coppery hue in the sunlight. Clementine was curious and headstrong, still learning from Augustus the subtle art of leading others with a balance of firmness and kindness. Augustus watched her patiently, his deep eyes twinkling with affectionate amusement whenever she veered impulsively toward something new or intriguing. Trailing behind Clementine was little Jasper, a playful elephant calf just over 2 years old, his ears comically oversized for his still-growing body. Jasper stumbled often, cheerful and undeterred, forever exploring with a boundless enthusiasm that charmed the entire herd. Today, Augustus guided them toward the shallow streams threading through the grasslands, their cool waters offering welcome respite from the oppressive heat. He knew the terrain intimately, every curve and hidden pool etched deeply within his memory from decades of wandering. Yet today, a quiet unease stirred within him, a whisper of caution he couldn't quite explain. Perhaps it was the faint tremor in the earth beneath his massive feet, or the subtle shift in the breeze, carrying scents unfamiliar and unsettling. Augustus paused, lifting his powerful trunk to carefully sample the air, scanning with wise eyes the horizon stretching endlessly ahead. Far from Augustus, Caleb Sullivan stood atop a rugged jeep painted a muted forest green, binoculars pressed firmly to his face. At 40, Caleb embodied strength tempered by humility, his athletic frame defined by years of dedicated physical labor and outdoor exploration. His short sandy brown hair caught the sun in soft highlights, and his bright blue eyes reflected his tireless commitment to Everdell's conservation. Caleb wore the standard uniform of a park ranger, khaki shirt neatly tucked into durable cargo pants, and boots slightly worn from countless patrols. Thoughtful, patient, and observant, Caleb was respected by his colleagues for both his expertise and unwavering devotion to protecting the park's diverse wildlife. As Caleb monitored the horizon, noting Augustus's slow and methodical journey, another jeep approached quietly from behind. Out stepped Lizzie Harper, the park's veterinarian, her presence always a calming one. Lizzie was near 35, petite but sturdy, with golden hair swept neatly into a practical ponytail. Her emerald eyes brimmed with warmth and empathy, revealing her deep-seated passion for healing and safeguarding wildlife. Quietly confident, Lizzie had learned through years of treating injured animals the importance of patience and gentle persistence. She wore a practical, olive-green field jacket over scrubs, a stethoscope around her neck as though permanently affixed, ever ready to tend to the animals entrusted to her care. "Anything unusual out there, Caleb?" she asked gently, shading her eyes with her hand as she squinted toward Augustus's distant herd. Caleb lowered his binoculars slowly, his eyes narrowing slightly with concern. "Hard to say, Lizzie. Augustus seems restless today, moving slower, pausing more than usual. Maybe he senses something. Elephants always seem to know things we don't," Lizzie murmured thoughtfully, a faint smile touching her lips as she watched Augustus with evident admiration. "They're remarkable creatures." Meanwhile, Augustus approached the edge of a narrow but deceptively deep watering hole, a secluded spot overgrown by thick clusters of reeds and dense brush. It was known to be treacherous, its edges steeply sloped beneath murky water. Augustus normally avoided this particular watering hole, aware of its dangers, but Jasper, ever curious and fearless, had wandered close, intrigued by something shimmering on the water surface. Suddenly, the calf stumbled forward with a startled trumpet, slipping down the steep, muddy bank. Augustus reacted instantly, trumpeting loudly in alarm, his massive body surging forward without hesitation. Clementine watched helplessly from above as Augustus wrapped his trunk protectively around Jasper, carefully hoisting the frightened calf to safety on the shallower edge. However, Augustus's own footing gave way beneath him, the slick, saturated earth collapsing suddenly, plunging him headfirst into the deep, murky water. From their vantage point, Caleb and Lizzie watched the commotion unfold with stunned disbelief. Without speaking, they leapt into the jeep, Caleb urgently steering toward the watering hole, heart pounding. Lizzie gripped tightly to the vehicle's handle, her eyes wide with fear and concern. Augustus struggled desperately in the water, his powerful legs churning frantically beneath him, his weight dragging him inexorably downward into deeper depths. He could feel the panic rising, unfamiliar and unsettling. His breathing labored as water threatened to fill his lungs. On the bank above, Clementine trumpeted anxiously, pacing frantically back and forth, while Jasper whimpered quietly by her side. Caleb and Lizzie arrived breathlessly at the watering hole's edge, quickly assessing the dire situation. Caleb wasted no time, casting aside his heavy ranger jacket, diving headlong into the murky water toward Augustus, ignoring Lizzie's cries of caution. His heart raced with adrenaline as he swam toward the enormous animal, driven by an instinctive urgency. He could hear Augustus's desperate breathing growing fainter, felt the monumental effort as he grasped at Augustus's rough, slippery hide. "Hang on, big guy," Caleb gasped breathlessly, arms aching as he strained against Augustus's immense weight. Lizzie shouted encouragement from the shore, readying ropes and harnesses for assistance. Augustus, his strength dwindling rapidly, fought to keep his massive head above water, his vision dimming slowly, despair creeping into his consciousness. But Caleb's determined voice and gentle touch reached through Augustus's confusion, igniting a spark of hope. With Herculean effort, Caleb guided Augustus toward shallower water, his muscles burning, breaths ragged. Lizzie splashed into the shallows, securing ropes around Augustus with practiced efficiency, her calm reassurance soothing Augustus's panic. Finally, Augustus felt solid ground beneath his massive feet once more, collapsing onto the muddy bank in exhaustion. His breath came in deep, grateful gasps, eyes searching and finding Caleb's weary face. Caleb lay panting beside Augustus, sharing silent acknowledgement. The connection between man and elephant deepened profoundly through mutual effort and trust. On the shore above, Clementine and Jasper watched solemnly, relief evident in their quiet stillness, as the sunset bathed all in warm golden light, casting long, tranquil shadows across the savannah. Caleb Sullivan's heart was still racing, a drumbeat in his chest, matching the labored breathing of Augustus beside him. The aftermath of their struggle lay evident along the muddy shore, deep gouges in the soft earth, a tangled mess of ropes and scattered footprints. Caleb leaned back on his elbows, mud coating his khaki uniform, sweat mingling with lake water on his brow. Augustus's massive body heaved rhythmically, each breath slow but steady, his wise amber eyes never leaving Caleb. The bond forged in those moments was palpable, hanging thick in the humid twilight air. Caleb reached out, his hand gently touching Augustus's coarse, damp hide, whispering softly, "You're okay now, big guy." Lizzie Harper knelt beside Augustus, stethoscope in hand, her golden ponytail now frayed from exertion. Her emerald eyes narrowed thoughtfully as she listened carefully to Augustus's heartbeat, comforted by its steady, rhythmic pulse. "He's stable," she reported gently, relief washing across her delicate features. Caleb met her gaze, sharing silent gratitude for her unwavering calm under pressure. As dusk began to darken the horizon, Caleb's radio crackled to life. "Caleb, do you copy? Report your status. Over." The voice belonged to Chief Ranger Emmett Walsh, a formidable figure in Everdell, known for his gruff exterior and uncompromising standards. At 55, Emmett was tall and imposing, his gray hair cropped short, steely blue eyes intense beneath bushy brows. Years of leadership had hardened him, leaving him reserved and demanding. Caleb respected Emmett deeply, though their interactions were often strained by the chief's strict expectations. Caleb picked up the radio reluctantly, fatigue weighing heavy on his limbs. "Chief Walsh, Sullivan here. Augustus had an incident at the watering hole. Situation's under control now. Harper and I will remain here overnight to monitor his condition." "Over." A momentary silence followed, broken by Emmett's curt response. "Understood. Be careful out there, Sullivan." "Walsh out." Caleb sighed, knowing that beneath Emmett's terse manner lay genuine concern. He turned his attention back to Augustus, reassuring himself of the animal's steady recovery. In the moonlit quiet, Caleb's thoughts drifted unbidden toward his estranged father, Arthur Sullivan. Arthur was 68, a retired mechanic from Tallahassee, with rugged hands and a stubborn demeanor. His salt and pepper hair framed a face etched deeply by time and hard work, while sharp gray eyes reflected years of unresolved disappointment. Arthur had always envisioned Caleb taking over the family auto shop, unable to comprehend his son's passion for wildlife preservation. Their final argument had ended in harsh words, creating a chasm neither had attempted to bridge in nearly 15 years. Yet tonight, as Caleb rested beside Augustus, memories stirred within him, recalling a time when he and his father had once shared simpler, happier days, fishing by quiet lakes similar to this one. Nearby, Lizzie was organizing medical supplies from her truck when headlights illuminated the darkening savannah. Approaching slowly was a small pickup, worn but well-maintained, driven by Eleanor Mills, a volunteer intern from the nearby university. Eleanor was young, perhaps 22, slender with pale skin dotted with freckles. Her auburn hair was cut short and practical, matching her straightforward manner. Bright, observant hazel eyes quickly assessed the scene as she exited her vehicle, adjusting oversized glasses that magnified her keen curiosity. Lizzie waved Eleanor over warmly, grateful for additional assistance. "Eleanor, thanks for coming so quickly." Lizzie greeted her softly, mindful not to disturb Augustus. Eleanor nodded eagerly, eyes widening at the sight of the massive elephant resting so peacefully near Caleb. "Anything you need, Dr. Harper?" "This is incredible," Eleanor whispered, awe evident in her voice. Lizzie smiled, handing Eleanor a notebook to record vital signs and observations through the night. Hours passed quietly, marked only by gentle rustlings in the grasslands and the distant calls of nocturnal wildlife. Caleb leaned against the jeep, eyes heavy with exhaustion, yet unwilling to rest fully, maintaining watchful vigilance. Augustus occasionally shifted, emitting low, contented rumblings that reassured Caleb he was recuperating well. As midnight approached, Caleb heard faint footsteps approaching. Emmett Walsh had arrived unexpectedly, his tall frame silhouetted by the soft glow of moonlight. Emmett stood quietly for a moment, surveying the scene, his intense gaze softening slightly at the peaceful tableau before him. "Couldn't sleep knowing you two were out here," Emmett admitted gruffly. Caleb nodded appreciatively, understanding the rarity of Emmett's vulnerability. They stood quietly, two men bound by duty, yet separated by generations and emotional barriers. Finally, Emmett broke the silence. "You did good today, Caleb. Augustus owes you his life." Caleb glanced at Emmett, surprised by the rare praise, a quiet pride swelling within him. "Just doing my job, Chief." Emmett nodded slowly, a faint smile softening his normally stern expression. "I'm proud to have you on my team," he added softly, before turning away, retreating into the shadows to patrol quietly, ever the vigilant guardian. Dawn arrived gently, painting the sky in soft pastels of pink and orange, scattering golden light across the sleeping landscape. Augustus stirred first, lifting his massive head with surprising ease, eyes clearer and brighter than the night before. Caleb stood slowly, muscles aching from fatigue, yet heartened by Augustus's apparent strength. Lizzie joined Caleb, smiling warmly as she watched Augustus rise carefully to his feet. Eleanor stood nearby, notebook clutched to her chest, visibly moved by the scene. Caleb approached Augustus cautiously, extending his hand to gently touch the elephant's trunk. Augustus accepted the gesture calmly, wrapping his trunk briefly around Caleb's arm in a gesture of unmistakable gratitude and affection. From a distance, unnoticed by the group, Emmett Walsh observed quietly, the hard lines of his face softened by an unfamiliar tenderness. Witnessing Caleb's bond with Augustus stirred something deep within him, a reminder of why he dedicated his life to protecting Everdell's precious inhabitants. Emmett sighed deeply, acknowledging inwardly the profound significance of moments like these. As morning fully embraced the savannah, Caleb prepared to return Augustus safely to his herd. With gentle encouragement, Augustus began the slow walk back, flanked protectively by Caleb and Lizzie, Eleanor trailing behind with quiet reverence. Caleb felt an overwhelming gratitude toward Augustus, whose resilience had inadvertently begun healing wounds he'd carried within himself for too long. Watching Caleb's careful, protective movements, Lizzie saw something she hadn't noticed clearly before, a quiet yet powerful courage, mingled with a tender vulnerability hidden beneath Caleb's steadfast exterior. It stirred feelings within her she couldn't yet name, but knew would linger long after today. They reached Augustus's herd safely, Clementine and Jasper immediately greeting Augustus with joyful trumpets. Caleb stepped back respectfully, watching the reunion with deep satisfaction. Augustus turned once, meeting Caleb's gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. The chapter closed beneath the warmth of the morning sun, the bond between Caleb and Augustus now firmly cemented by shared struggle and survival, each finding strength and healing within the other's presence. Lizzie Harper quickly navigated the muddy terrain, her boots squelching in the saturated earth as she hurried toward the clearing where Augustus now lay resting after his reunion with the herd. The Florida sun climbed higher, casting dappled shadows through the branches of sprawling live oaks. Lizzie's golden hair, usually neatly tied, was now messy and wild, strands of sunlight catching the tangled wisps around her flushed cheeks. Her emerald eyes, gentle yet sharply perceptive, continuously assessed the scene before her. Lizzie's small stature seemed fragile against the vast savannah, but her determined stride and calm demeanor revealed her inner strength. She carried a medical bag slung over her shoulder, heavy but familiar, containing every tool necessary to ensure Augustus's recovery. Caleb Sullivan stood quietly nearby, speaking in soft, reassuring tones to Augustus. The elephant's breathing was steady, a rhythmic, comforting sound, Caleb noticed Lizzie approaching and straightened up slightly, a smile briefly crossing his weary features. He had not rested, choosing vigilance over comfort through the long night, leaving his face lined with exhaustion. Yet despite his fatigue, his blue eyes retained a determined brightness. "I'm glad you're here, Lizzie," Caleb said softly, gratitude evident in his voice. She nodded warmly, kneeling beside Augustus, gently laying a hand against his rough skin. Lizzie's practiced hands moved deftly, examining Augustus for any unseen injuries, checking his vital signs meticulously. Her calming presence visibly relaxed Augustus, whose deep amber eyes gazed at her trustingly. As she worked, Lizzie's mind drifted to her own past, recalling vividly her childhood home on a small farm in rural Georgia. Growing up surrounded by animals had instilled in her a deep compassion, shaping her path toward veterinary medicine. Lizzie remembered clearly her father, Benjamin Harper, a gentle, patient man whose quiet manner she had inherited. His passing a few years ago had left her with a lingering sadness, yet strengthened her resolve to heal and protect the creatures who couldn't speak for themselves. These reflections deepened Lizzie's empathy, driving every careful movement as she administered treatment to Augustus. A soft cough from behind startled her slightly. Turning, she saw Eleanor Mills, the young intern, watching intently, notebook tightly held against her chest, eager yet hesitant. Eleanor stepped forward, glasses sliding slightly down her slender nose as she adjusted them nervously. Her short auburn hair framed a youthful face filled with earnest curiosity. "Dr. Harper, is there anything else I can help you with?" Eleanor's voice quivered with nervous energy, clearly admiring the veterinarian and anxious to impress. Lizzie smiled gently, recognizing the intern's eagerness. "You're doing wonderfully, Eleanor. Just continue to note his breathing and heart rate carefully. These details matter immensely." Nearby, Caleb had moved away slightly, speaking quietly on the radio with Emmett Walsh, updating the chief on Augustus's stable condition. Ending the transmission, he noticed a rustling in the bushes near the edge of the clearing. Cautiously, Caleb moved toward the noise, eyes alert. A sudden sharp bark made Caleb jump slightly. From beneath a thicket emerged a small, scrappy-looking dog, covered in burrs and dirt. The dog was medium-sized, its wiry fur a blend of rusty brown and white, sticking out at odd angles. Its eyes were mismatched, one bright blue, the other deep brown, and it regarded Caleb warily, ears perked cautiously. Caleb knelt slowly, extending his hand gently. "Easy, friend," he whispered softly. The dog hesitated briefly before cautiously approaching, sniffing Caleb's fingers with tentative curiosity. Deciding quickly that Caleb meant no harm, the dog nuzzled into his outstretched palm, body trembling slightly. Caleb carefully picked up the small animal, feeling how thin it was beneath the coarse fur. He returned quietly to Lizzie, cradling the dog gently against his chest. "Lizzie, we've got another patient, it seems," he said softly, showing her the stray. Lizzie's eyes softened immediately, shifting her focus briefly from Augustus. "Poor little thing. Eleanor, give me some water and a blanket from the truck, please." Eleanor nodded swiftly, jogging back to the vehicle with renewed purpose. Lizzie inspected the dog carefully, noting its underfed frame and patchy fur. "Probably abandoned or lost," she murmured softly, stroking the dog's tangled coat gently. "We'll take care of you now, little guy." The dog whimpered softly, nestling closer to Caleb's protective embrace. Caleb felt an unexpected warmth spread through him. The connection with the fragile animal mirrored the bond he'd begun forming with Augustus, stirring within him a deeper appreciation for Lizzie's compassion and quiet strength. After Eleanor returned with supplies, Lizzie cleaned and carefully wrapped the dog in a blanket, murmuring comforting words all the while. Augustus watched the interaction quietly, his intelligent gaze shifting slowly between Caleb, Lizzie, and the newcomer. The elephant emitted a gentle, reassuring rumble, as if approving their care of the stray. "Looks like you have a friend, Caleb," Lizzie smiled softly, glancing up at him through tangled blonde strands. Caleb returned her smile warmly, eyes softening with sincerity. Seems he chose us. Nearby, the approach of another vehicle disturbed the peaceful moment. A sleek black SUV parked swiftly, and from it emerged Amelia Grant, a representative from Everdell's Wildlife Conservation Committee. Amelia was tall and elegantly composed, around 45, her dark hair cut sharply at her shoulders, framing a serious, determined face. Her demeanor was professional yet reserved, her dark eyes sharp with intelligence. Amelia was known for her meticulous standards and fierce advocacy for wildlife protection. She approached the group briskly, her gaze quickly assessing the scene. "Caleb, Dr. Harper," she greeted crisply, nodding toward Augustus and the dog. "Chief Walsh briefed me on what happened. You both did excellent work." Caleb exchanged a brief glance with Lizzie, surprised at the rare praise. Amelia rarely expressed outward approval, her stern reputation well known throughout the park. "Thank you, Ms. Grant," Caleb responded respectfully. Amelia nodded briskly, her expression softening slightly as she observed Augustus closely. "Augustus is critical to Everdell's ecosystem and our conservation efforts," Amelia stated firmly, her voice softened by genuine concern. "If you need further resources or support, please don't hesitate to inform me immediately." Lizzie nodded appreciatively, recognizing Amelia's sincere dedication. "We'll keep monitoring closely. He's recovering remarkably." Satisfied, Amelia returned to her vehicle, her brief visit a testament to the importance of Augustus's survival. As the afternoon deepened, Caleb and Lizzie continued their quiet vigil, each feeling an undeniable closeness forged through shared challenges. The stray dog slept peacefully in Caleb's lap, finally safe and secure. Augustus remained calm and steady, recovering his strength steadily under Lizzie's watchful care. Beneath the vast Florida sky, an unspoken connection flourished between Caleb and Lizzie, nurtured by compassion, resilience, and mutual respect. Both sensed something deepening between them, a bond stronger than mere professional camaraderie. Augustus's quiet presence seemed to witness and silently affirm this growing closeness. As evening approached, Augustus stirred gently, lifting his head with restored vigor, eyes bright with renewed life. Caleb met Lizzie's hopeful gaze, their shared relief blossoming into quiet joy. Augustus emitted a gentle rumble, touching Caleb's hand affectionately with his trunk. Lizzie smiled, her heart warmed by the profound moment. They sat together, wrapped in quiet celebration, the delicate peace broken only by the gentle breathing of Augustus and the steady heartbeat of the rescued stray, symbols of renewed hope and the tender bonds forming between them all. Days passed gently over Everdell, sunlight filtering warmly through the canopies of live oaks, casting dappled patterns over the dusty trails that Caleb Sullivan knew so intimately. Augustus, now fully recovered, often emerged silently from the thick foliage, joining Caleb during his daily patrols. His presence, quiet and majestic, became a reassuring constant in Caleb's routine, a gentle reminder of their shared bond. As Caleb moved carefully through the park, Augustus followed at a respectful distance, his enormous frame moving surprisingly quietly through the tall grasses. Caleb found comfort in this unusual companionship, the elephant's quiet footsteps reflecting a connection deeper than words. Lizzie Harper frequently joined these patrols, her presence bringing warmth and a shared purpose that Caleb welcomed. Over these past days, a quiet affection had blossomed between them, nurtured by their mutual devotion to Everdell's wildlife. Lizzie's gentle nature complemented Caleb's steady resolve, creating an easy companionship that both treasured yet hesitated to name. Often, Augustus would pause, watching them together with wise, knowing eyes, as if silently approving this delicate new connection. One bright afternoon, while Lizzie and Caleb paused beside the Jeep, Augustus quietly grazing nearby, Caleb's cell phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his heart tightening sharply. The caller ID read simply, Dad. He stared at it uncertainly, emotions swirling within him, memories of past arguments flooding his mind. Finally, he gathered his courage and answered softly, Hello, Dad. The voice that responded was gruff, weathered by age and years of disappointment. Arthur Sullivan, Caleb's estranged father, spoke with a cautious hesitancy. Arthur, at 68, was a retired mechanic whose tall, sturdy frame had begun to stoop slightly under the weight of years. His face was rugged, lined deeply, reflecting decades of physical labor and emotional strain. His gray hair was thick and unruly, his sharp eyes carrying a perpetual shadow of regret. Arthur had been rigid, fiercely traditional, often struggling to understand Caleb's passion for wildlife conservation, a pursuit he dismissed as impractical and naive. Caleb, it's been a long time, Arthur said slowly, his voice softer than Caleb remembered. I was wondering, I heard about you on the news. That elephant business. I figure maybe we could talk sometime. Caleb's throat tightened, conflicting emotions rising. He glanced instinctively toward Lizzie, whose supportive gaze steadied him. Sure, Dad, Caleb responded quietly, swallowing hard. I'd like that. Their conversation ended briefly, leaving Caleb unsettled, memories and emotions long buried, now painfully resurfacing. Lizzie touched his arm softly. Are you all right? She asked, her gentle voice filled with concern. Caleb nodded, forcing a weak smile. It's complicated, he admitted quietly. My dad never approved of my career here. Always wanted me to take over his shop. We argued, haven't spoken in years. Lizzie squeezed his arm gently. Maybe it's time to mend those fences, she suggested softly. Life's too short for regrets. Caleb nodded thoughtfully, Lizzie's wisdom resonating deeply. Nearby, Augustus rumbled softly, his intelligent gaze fixed thoughtfully on Caleb, sensing the subtle shift in his emotions. Later that afternoon, as Caleb continued patrol alone, absorbed in contemplation, he noticed an unfamiliar car parked alongside a quiet clearing. Approaching cautiously, he saw a woman standing near the vehicle, observing a cluster of rare orchids with intense concentration. The woman noticed Caleb's arrival, straightening quickly, her face lighting up with a genuine, friendly smile. She introduced herself as Rebecca Marshall, a visiting botanical researcher. Rebecca was slender and graceful, about 30, with short curly brown hair that framed a cheerful face sprinkled liberally with freckles. Her large brown eyes sparkled with intellectual curiosity. She wore casual outdoor attire, khaki shorts, sturdy hiking boots, and a wide-brimmed hat, projecting an air of enthusiasm and warmth. Caleb immediately felt at ease around her open, straightforward demeanor. I hope I'm not intruding, Rebecca said politely. I'm researching local plant species for the university. Everdell has some remarkable specimens. Caleb smiled warmly, appreciating her obvious respect for the park's natural treasures. You're welcome here. It's nice seeing someone who appreciates the smaller wonders of this place. Their conversation was interrupted as Augustus emerged silently from nearby trees, moving calmly toward Caleb. Rebecca stared in awe, momentarily speechless, before recovering herself. Is this Augustus? She asked breathlessly, admiration shining in her eyes. Caleb nodded fondly, gently patting Augustus's massive shoulder as the elephant settled beside him. He's become something of a shadow lately, Caleb explained affectionately. Rebecca laughed softly, delighted by the gentle giant. It's remarkable, seeing such trust between you. Caleb smiled faintly, suddenly thoughtful. We've been through a lot together. As Rebecca returned to her vehicle, promising future visits, Caleb felt a renewed appreciation for Everdell's ability to connect people through its natural beauty. That evening, back at the ranger station, Chief Ranger Emmett Walsh noticed Caleb's distracted mood. Emmett, despite his usually stern demeanor, showed occasional glimpses of a softer heart, tempered by age and experience. His tall, authoritative figure stood quietly near the doorway, blue eyes thoughtful beneath graying brows. Something troubling you, Caleb? Emmett asked bluntly, though not unkindly. Caleb hesitated briefly, then confessed quietly, "My dad reached out today, Chief. First time in years. I don't know what to think." Emmett considered carefully before responding. "Family's complicated. I lost mine years ago, holding on to grudges I can't even recall. Don't make my mistake, Caleb. Give her father a chance." Caleb nodded solemnly, appreciating Emmett's rare personal insight. The chief placed a comforting hand briefly on Caleb's shoulder before walking away quietly, leaving Caleb deep in thought. The following morning, Augustus once again joined Caleb's patrol, this time accompanied by Lizzie, whose quiet presence was comforting. As they moved through the park, Caleb finally dialed Arthur's number, his heart pounding nervously. Arthur answered hesitantly. "Caleb." "Dad." Caleb replied gently, steeling himself. "How about visiting Everdell? See for yourself what I do here." Arthur paused before finally responding. "I'd like that, Caleb. I really would." Caleb exhaled softly, relief mingling with cautious hope. Beside him, Lizzie smiled warmly, quietly supportive. Augustus rumbled softly, his wise eyes filled with understanding, as if he sensed the significance of this moment. As they continued walking together, Caleb felt a profound sense of gratitude for the healing Everdell had begun to facilitate, not only physically, through Augustus's miraculous recovery, but emotionally, through tentative steps toward reconciliation with his father. Each careful footstep echoed quietly, signaling cautious yet hopeful progress forward. The morning air at Everdell carried a refreshing coolness, gently sweeping away the lingering warmth of the previous day. Wispy clouds floated lazily overhead, their delicate shapes softened by the early sunlight filtering through ancient trees. Caleb Sullivan stood quietly near the ranger station, hands tucked into his pockets, eyes fixed nervously on the winding gravel path ahead. Today, his father, Arthur Sullivan, would arrive at Everdell, his first visit since their bitter falling out more than a decade ago. Anxiety twisted uneasily in Caleb's chest as he waited. Beside Caleb, Lizzie Harper stood quietly supportive, sensing the tension radiating from him. Her blonde hair glinted softly in the morning light, eyes compassionate yet carefully neutral, aware that this was Caleb's moment to navigate. Augustus, ever intuitive, lingered nearby, gently munching foliage, his massive ears flicking occasionally as though alert to every subtle emotional shift in Caleb's demeanor. Finally, a weathered red pickup truck appeared around the distant bend, rumbling slowly toward them. Caleb's pulse quickened as the truck stopped, engine ticking quietly in the stillness. Arthur Sullivan stepped from the vehicle slowly, hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable. His tall frame stooped slightly with age, shoulders squared stiffly beneath a faded blue denim jacket. His graying hair was carefully combed back, eyes squinting against the bright sunlight, his face lined deeply with unease and apprehension. Arthur's movements carried a cautious dignity, a quiet defiance shaped by years of hard labor and stubborn pride. For a moment, father and son stood silently regarding each other, the air heavy with unspoken memories. Caleb finally broke the silence, stepping forward cautiously. "Thanks for coming, Dad." Arthur cleared his throat awkwardly, nodding stiffly. "Well, figured it was overdue," he responded gruffly, eyes briefly meeting Caleb's before quickly looking away. Lizzie smiled gently, stepping forward to introduce herself softly. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm Lizzie Harper, the park veterinarian. It's wonderful you could visit us." Arthur nodded politely, expression reserved yet appreciative of her graciousness. Caleb exhaled quietly, grateful for Lizzie's calming presence. "Dad, why don't we take a walk? I'd like you to meet someone special." Arthur agreed with a hesitant grunt, clearly uncertain yet willing to try. Caleb led him along a narrow trail through dense greenery, the path winding gently toward Augustus's favored clearing. Arthur moved slowly, his gaze shifting uneasily across unfamiliar terrain, visibly uncomfortable yet masking it behind stubborn resolve. Caleb spoke softly, attempting small talk to ease the awkwardness. "How's the old shop holding up? Arthur shrugged stiffly, glancing away. Closed it down last year. Couldn't handle the physical work anymore. Caleb's throat tightened, a wave of regret surging within him. I'm sorry to hear that, he murmured gently. Arthur hesitated before responding, voice softened slightly by melancholy. It happens. Life moves on. The trail opened into a broad clearing where Augustus stood patiently grazing, his majestic presence immediately drawing Arthur's startled attention. Arthur halted abruptly, eyes wide with astonishment, momentarily speechless. Caleb approached Augustus gently, patting the elephant's massive shoulder affectionately. Augustus raised his head, amber eyes gentle yet curious as they settled upon Arthur's uncertain figure. This is Augustus, Caleb introduced softly. He nearly died recently, fell into a watering hole. We managed to pull him out barely. Lizzie and I worked through the night to save him. Arthur stared silently, visibly moved by the sight of Caleb standing comfortably beside such a magnificent creature. He cautiously approached, hand trembling slightly as he reached out tentatively toward Augustus's leathery skin. Augustus responded gently, lightly brushing Arthur's hand with his trunk, sensing no threat in the older man's cautious demeanor. Arthur's guarded expression slowly softened, replaced by quiet wonder. He trusts you, Arthur murmured, eyes filled with newfound respect. Caleb nodded gently, voice quiet but firm. I spent my life trying to protect animals like Augustus. It's not glamorous work, but moments like these make it worth every struggle. Arthur turned toward Caleb, eyes suddenly clouded with regret. I never understood why you chose this path, he admitted quietly, voice gruff with emotion. All I saw was you rejecting the life I wanted for you. I guess I never took time to listen. Caleb swallowed hard, eyes misted lightly. Maybe I should have explained better, he conceded softly. But this is where my heart is. Arthur's expression softened further, vulnerability exposed in his aging features. I see that now. Maybe too late, but I'm proud of you, Caleb. Caleb's chest tightened sharply, heart aching with unexpected joy at words he'd longed to hear for years. It's never too late, Dad, he whispered thickly. Arthur hesitated briefly before slowly embracing Caleb, stiffly at first, then with increasing warmth. Augustus watched quietly, rumbling softly as though sensing the profound moment unfolding before him. Nearby, Lizzie discreetly wiped away a tear, deeply touched by the scene. The quiet was gently broken by the sound of a camera shutter clicking nearby. Eleanor Mills, the intern, stood at the edge of the clearing, camera in hand, face flushed apologetically beneath her auburn hair. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It was just such a beautiful moment, she murmured shyly. Caleb chuckled softly, waving her over reassuringly. It's all right, Eleanor. Arthur regarded Eleanor curiously, his expression warming as she approached cautiously. Caleb introduced her briefly, explaining her internship. Eleanor smiled bashfully, clearly delighted to meet Arthur. Arthur nodded approvingly, clearly touched by the younger generation's dedication and passion. Eleanor, sensing the importance of this reconciliation, tactfully withdrew soon afterward, leaving the Sullivan men alone again. Caleb noticed a newfound ease in Arthur's posture, a quiet peace replacing his previous rigidity. Augustus gently nudged Arthur, prompting a rare, genuine smile from the older man. As afternoon shadows stretched gently across the clearing, Arthur finally spoke again. I'd like to visit more often, Caleb. Maybe I could learn a bit from you. See what else I've missed. Caleb nodded warmly, hope swelling gently within him. I like that too, Dad. Returning slowly toward the ranger station, father and son walked side by side, tension replaced by comfortable silence, Augustus following protectively behind. Lizzie waited patiently, smiling softly as they approached, recognizing the powerful healing that had occurred. Arthur paused near her, voice quieter now. Thank you, Lizzie, for everything. Lizzie nodded warmly, responding softly. It was Caleb's courage and your openness that did this. I'm just glad to have seen it. Arthur nodded thoughtfully, appreciation clear in his eyes. Before leaving, he embraced Caleb once more, this time warmly and easily. "Take care, son." Caleb watched his father's truck disappear slowly into the distance, heart lighter than it had felt in years. Augustus gently touched Caleb's shoulder with his trunk, offering quiet reassurance. Lizzie stepped quietly beside Caleb, her presence comforting. "You okay?" she asked softly. Caleb smiled gently, eyes bright with quiet joy. "I think I am." Together, they stood quietly, basking in the warmth of reconciliation, grateful for Augustus's quiet wisdom and the whispered voices of the past that had finally brought healing. Morning dawned with a tranquil calm over Everdell, sunlight filtering gently through the towering live oaks, casting golden flecks upon dew-covered grasses. Caleb Sullivan drove slowly along one of the park's most remote trails, the Jeep carefully navigating rocky terrain shaded by sprawling trees. He felt a profound sense of peace, recently rekindled by the reconciliation with his father, Arthur, whose visit had mended wounds Caleb thought beyond repair. Beside him sat the stray dog he'd rescued days before, now named Scout, a lively companion whose wiry, rust-colored coat had regained its shine, mismatched eyes bright with playful curiosity. Caleb had grown deeply attached to the little animal, whose presence eased moments of loneliness during long patrols. Today's route was familiar yet challenging, a routine patrol meant to assess wildlife conditions and forest health. Caleb's thoughts drifted pleasantly to Lizzie Harper, whose gentle presence had become a comforting constant in his life. Their relationship, still new yet increasingly certain, had blossomed through shared experiences and mutual admiration, promising a hopeful future Caleb eagerly anticipated. The Jeep rounded a bend, approaching a narrow creek crossing, shallow but slippery after overnight rains. Distracted momentarily, Caleb misjudged the slick stones beneath his tires. The vehicle lurched sideways abruptly, sliding off the muddy embankment with a harsh jolt. Caleb gripped the wheel tightly, his heart pounding wildly as the Jeep slammed into a fallen log, coming to a sudden halt, tilted precariously. He exhaled sharply, assessing the damage, unharmed but badly shaken. Scout barked anxiously, pawing Caleb's knee, sensing distress. Caleb stepped cautiously from the vehicle, testing footing on the muddy slope. As he moved to survey the Jeep, his foot slipped suddenly on wet earth, sending him tumbling down the steep incline into thick underbrush. Pain shot sharply through his ankle, causing him to gasp in agony. Caleb tried standing, grimacing as the injured ankle refused to bear weight. Realizing he was stranded and too far out for immediate communication, a pang of worry gripped him. Scout raced frantically around, whining softly, clearly sensing Caleb's distress. "It's okay, buddy," Caleb murmured, forcing calm into his voice. "We'll figure this out." Hours passed slowly beneath the thick canopy, sunlight shifting gradually overhead. The forest hummed softly around him, birds calling faintly in the distance. Caleb had managed to brace himself comfortably, ankle throbbing persistently. Scout curled protectively at his side, warmth radiating comfortingly. Caleb knew Lizzie would grow concerned when he didn't return on schedule, yet waiting felt painfully uncertain. Suddenly, Scout's ears perked sharply, body tense with alertness. Caleb strained to hear. Faint rustling drifted through dense foliage, the unmistakable sound of massive footsteps. Augustus emerged slowly into view, his impressive figure moving gracefully despite its enormity, eyes scanning with quiet intensity. Upon seeing Caleb, Augustus trumpeted softly, recognition clear in his gentle amber gaze. Caleb's heart lifted immediately, warmth spreading through him. Augustus approached cautiously, touching Caleb's shoulder gently with his trunk, reassurance clear in the gentle caress. Scout, sensing Augustus's calm demeanor, settled back comfortably. "You found me, old friend," Caleb whispered gratefully, rubbing Augustus's wrinkled skin affectionately. Augustus positioned himself protectively nearby, clearly determined to remain beside Caleb until help arrived. Caleb drew comfort from Augustus's steady presence, the elephant's quiet breathing blending harmoniously with the forest's gentle rhythm. Back at the ranger station, Lizzie anxiously glanced at the clock, worry deepening as minutes stretched into hours without Caleb's return. Arthur Sullivan, who had unexpectedly extended his stay, noticed her concern. Arthur had softened significantly since reconciling with Caleb, his former rigidity replaced by newfound gentleness. His graying hair, neatly combed, framed eyes filled with genuine warmth and quiet understanding. "Something's wrong, isn't it?" Arthur asked gently, approaching Lizzie with quiet concern. She nodded uneasily. "Caleb should have been back hours ago. He's always punctual." Arthur's expression tightened, worry reflecting clearly in his weathered features. Chief Ranger Emmett Walsh stepped forward, decisive authority evident in his movements. "Let's not waste time," Emmett declared firmly. "I'll organize a search immediately." Lizzie insisted on joining, her determined gaze brooking no argument. Arthur, equally resolved, climbed into the rescue vehicle without hesitation, eager to assist despite his age. Emmett directed the team swiftly, their coordinated efficiency comforting Lizzie's anxious heart. Meanwhile, beneath the forest canopy, Caleb felt exhaustion beginning to overtake him. Augustus remained vigilant, occasionally emitting soft, comforting rumbles. Caleb drifted lightly, awareness fading briefly. Suddenly, Augustus lifted his head sharply, ears fanning outward attentively. Caleb opened his eyes slowly, barely hearing distant voices calling his name. Scout barked energetically, racing toward the sounds, returning quickly, tail wagging excitedly. "Caleb!" Lizzie's voice echoed urgently through the trees, filled with relief. Moments later, the rescue team appeared through dense underbrush, Lizzie rushing forward immediately. Arthur followed close behind, expression deeply anxious yet immeasurably relieved upon seeing Caleb safe. Lizzie knelt swiftly beside Caleb, eyes filled with concern as she assessed his condition quickly. "It's just my ankle," Caleb reassured gently, smiling weakly despite his discomfort. Lizzie's hand gently brushed his cheek, relief evident in her gentle touch. Arthur stepped closer cautiously, clearly emotional. "You scared me half to death," he murmured softly, voice thick with affection. "Sorry about that," Caleb replied quietly, sincerity filling his tired smile. Arthur glanced toward Augustus, astonishment flickering briefly before settling into profound respect. "He stayed with you," Arthur remarked quietly, deeply moved. "He always does," Caleb confirmed softly, meeting Augustus's intelligent gaze warmly. Augustus rumbled softly in response, clearly content. The team swiftly stabilized Caleb's injury, preparing carefully for the journey back. Lizzie remained close, holding Caleb's hand comfortingly. Arthur watched quietly, understanding fully the depth of love and trust shared among the small group. Back at the ranger station, Caleb rested comfortably, ankles secured and pain easing gradually. Lizzie remained close, their shared affection clearly evident in quiet glances and gentle touches. Arthur observed thoughtfully, recognizing clearly the love that had blossomed between them. Augustus lingered nearby briefly, watching calmly through wide windows before moving quietly away, rejoining the herd grazing peacefully outside. Lizzie squeezed Caleb's hand gently, eyes bright with affection. "You scared me today," she murmured softly, voice filled with gentle teasing. "I promise I'll try not to make it a habit," Caleb responded warmly, smiling tenderly. Arthur cleared his throat quietly, smiling faintly. "Seeing you all together, it helps me understand, finally, why you chose this life. I'm proud of you, Caleb. Truly." Caleb's heart swelled profoundly, eyes misted slightly. "Thanks, Dad," he whispered sincerely. Arthur nodded warmly, finally feeling genuinely connected to his son's world. Outside, Augustus trumpeted joyfully, the powerful sound echoing vibrantly through Everdell's lush forest, a fitting conclusion to their journey of healing and hope. Together, Caleb, Lizzie, and Arthur watched fondly as Augustus rejoined his herd, guiding them confidently beneath sun-dappled branches, a living testament to resilience, friendship, and the powerful bonds forged within Everdell's tranquil beauty. The story of Caleb, Augustus, and Arthur gently reminds us of the powerful bonds forged through compassion, forgiveness, and understanding. Just like Caleb, we all sometimes face difficult moments, strained relationships, or feelings of isolation. But this tale teaches us that courage and kindness can mend even the deepest wounds. Perhaps there's an Augustus in your life, a quiet protector, or a relationship needing healing. Today, take a gentle step towards reconciliation, forgiveness, and gratitude. If this story touched your heart, please consider sharing it with your loved ones. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, or simply type Amen as a prayer for all those who need healing and peace. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories. May God bless you abundantly in every step you take. Amen.